so much for joining us today for another segment of Meet the Agent. Today I am speaking with Scott Gardner. He is an expert realtor out of the northern Idaho area. Specifically, he services the Kootenai County area. I think I'm saying that right. So thank you so much for making yourself available and joining us today.
Thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk to you and to talk to others.
I just wanted to get started here, getting a little more information about you and your background. I know you've been in real estate for about 8 or 9 years. And how is it that you came to transition into real estate?
Wow. Okay. So it really was, I have to say, it is kind of my wife's idea. So she was a broker back in the 80s, took some time off to raise the kids, and my other business we had just sold. I'd been in retail for about 25 years, and we'd sold the business, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do to ease out, into retirement, and something that was scalable. And real estate came up as a really good option for us. I really enjoyed. I guess it's a question you asked me earlier. Real estate to me was all about serving our clients, and I've got that servant heart. It's always been what's driven me, and so that being kind of our focus as we went into real estate, and it's been great. And I mentioned my wife; she actually ended up joining me about 2 years ago. So the kids are a little older; they're kind of on their own, and she said, "You know what? You're doing pretty good. Let me get in there and let's work together." So that's been really fun. It really has. Very rewarding.
I love hearing that when people find the right thing that they were meant to do. And so transitioning from, like you said, in a retail environment in which you're still doing sales, but obviously when you're, buying your house, you have a whole lot more emotional baggage that goes along with it, a lot more fears and trepidations and all that sort of stuff. So how have you been able to reconcile what you knew about sales prior to real estate and transition it into something that, again, is much more personal than most purchases would be?
I think what we learned from the previous retail experience was the ability to, oh my gosh, that's hard. That's a hard question, really, because it was so different. We were always behind the scenes in what we did before. It was video rental. So my sales experience there was with the primary retail stores. So we actually provided video rental departments to a grocery store or a convenience store, 50 locations across Idaho, Montana, and Washington. And so my job was more about training employees, selling to those store owners so that we could provide a service to them. What we're doing now, is definitely much more emotional, and it's probably turned into, it's really more of a counseling job, honestly. We think of ourselves as real estate counselors. We say it many times. We actually thought about marketing and using that in our marketing more, but we still haven't. But it really is. It's counseling because people are very emotional. Just the other day, a young couple that we were working with, and they were, this is actually our second time working with them, and their children were sort of, acting out, because of all the transition where we're staging the house, packing things up, and we let them know that really, if your kids are going to take the cue from you're anxious and you're sort of out of sorts, they're going to pick that up. And it really helped. It helped because they were able to sort of keep their maybe a little more under wraps, talk about it themselves at night after the kids have gone to sleep. And it was a much smoother transition. The kids actually got excited about it. They really started talking about the positive things about the move. A new bedroom, you get to paint it and decorate it, whatever the things were that made it fun. It's getting closer to grandma and grandpa, like that, and that really helped.
So it's still about the service at the core of it, but just the logistics of that have changed.
Exactly. It's always serving. I think everything we do is serving. I mean, I work as a volunteer, I should say, as a scout master for our local Boy Scout troop. And same thing, I'm trying to teach those boys from the very beginning that it's what you can serve, what you can do, what you can give. That's why we're here. It's not just all about getting things for self. And if we're outwardly focused about what we can do, what we can give, how we can contribute, the rest takes care of itself. It does. You're always taken care of. So.
Well, and you mentioned before that you had kind of toyed with that idea of being a counselor in your marketing. And I'm kind of curious because now that we're in this, day and age in which you can, a homeowner or home seller can get in contact with a myriad of agents very easily. What are some things that you've done to help yourself and your wife stand out from the competition to let them communicate that about how much you care?
We're doing it through our existing clientele, just making sure that we are constantly in touch with people that we have served, people that we have bought or sold with in the past. We can spend an exorbitant amount of our budget on reaching out for new clients and just get a very small percentage of that back. But when you focus on the people that you already know and the people that already, love you, so to speak, that's the best place to invest your time and your money. And that's where we spend our time and money, is back on the folks that we love and care for. We actually, for our Christmas gifts, we've done this every year. We've actually given some kind of a Christmas gift personally to the clients that are still in our area. They've moved out of the area, obviously, or something, but knocking on their door, presenting. This year was a wreath. We had fresh cut wreaths, and just one more opportunity to talk to folks and have an exchange. And I would say 70% of the people that we went and talked, that we dropped a wreath off, if they weren't there and we had a conversation, we got a conversation later, a text or an email or a phone call, that said thank you and good to see you guys and what's going on in your life. And so it's just staying connected with you. I think that's the biggest, most important thing that we can be doing right now.
I love that. I like that idea of using that personal touch, because we're very isolated. It's a very cold kind of digital world we're in. It
is. And we haven't necessarily focused on a particular demographic, age demographic, but it does seem that the majority of our clients are 50 and older, really. And so they really appreciate that personal touch. And actually, I would augment that and add on to that to say that our millennials also, I've heard many studies now, they're telling me that when, yes, they love the connectivity and the availability of digital communication, but they still want to be connected to on a much more personal level. So I think it's going to work for everyone. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think when it's something impersonal, it's easier to focus on the convenience of technology. But when it's something that's that personal, like your house ownership, I would appreciate the personal touch to not feel that you're just a walking dollar sign.
Right. I think that's it. You're absolutely there. We want to know them. We want to know our clients and figure out know their kids. What do you like? What do you do? What are your hobbies? And in the home buying world, I mean, you're spending hours and hours with your clients for anywhere from 30 to 60 days usually, and that's just a transaction. We're not counting all the time before that when you're getting to know them and shopping. So it's a very long-winded transaction, and there's a lot of time and a lot of touch, and you just do. You get to know people.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah, and the long-term game versus the short-term.
Right. Yeah, we're not buying a pair of jeans. We're not renting a video like in my old business here. You're there for the long haul.
Well, and transitioning from that into as we look forward into 2020, I know there's a lot of speculations. We have some indications that the market's going to somewhat stabilize over the following year. But in your particular area in Idaho and what you're seeing, what are some of your 2020 market predictions?
2020 market predictions for North Idaho they're all positive. We're seeing a number of larger institutions coming into our area. We are primarily a retirement and resort area. We have Coeur d'Alene Lake is our big draw, one of the top 10 lakes in the country. And the somewhat rural nature of our area is still what's bringing people here. And there's a lot of disposable income out there, and there's a lot of people that have again made their money maybe in a more metropolitan area, and they're ready to slow down a little bit and retire. So the predictions for our area are all positive. The major employers in the area, which are still our county and our hospital system, they're predicting more hiring. The hospitals bought some more land. They're expanding. So everything here looks positive. I do believe that our prices are going to somewhat plateau. We kind of hope they do, because quite honestly, it's the affordability is becoming a problem. So we're predicting a somewhat stable market, but we're still predicting a major growth in our population. Right now, Kootenai County is a little over 150,000 in the whole county, and everything we're seeing from the county and the state, everybody's predicting at least a 10% growth. So that's what we're looking for.
Well, that's great. Yeah, it's and here in California, people do tend to just focus on the home price. So I like that distinction that you're making, that prices might stabilize, but that doesn't necessarily indicate that the market's going down.
Correct. Yeah, there's the demand for our area is on the increase. Absolutely. Idaho is known for a balanced budget. So I've got a lot of people moving into our area that are saying, hey, and keep in mind, Spokane, Washington is 30 miles to the west. That's a much larger metropolitan area. Between Spokane County and Kootenai County, we've got 1 million people. But everybody we talk to, I say, hey, if we start running into an affordability problem in Idaho, I can tell them that just over the border, you can save 10% on your home price, but they want to be in Idaho because of what Idaho has come to represent at this point in the Northwest. So again, I feel like we're set for another good growth year in 2020. Absolutely.
Well, and I want to move into now talking a little bit about internet lead generation specifically. So if you're, when you are working your internet leads, can you give us a feel for sort of your process? Like let's say right now you get a new internet lead just came live on the market. What's your first step?
First step on our internet lead is actually still a little unconventional, something new that we're trying in 2020. I found in the past that so many of our leads, we've been unable to reach them. So with somebody with an email address and a mailing address, but no phone number, they are just so hard to get anywhere with. 1 in 100, actually turns into something. So in 2020, we're actually taking the steps to go to their door. We have an address. So we're going to bring a packet to the house. Hopefully I get somebody home. If I don't, I'm still leaving a packet on the door. And I think that is definitely a differentiating factor between us and other agents. We're willing to go that extra mile to try and serve the client. All coming back around to the way we're trying to serve our clients. The thing I do like about the leads from Set Schedule is that they do come with a phone number, and when we have that phone number, our chances of actually connecting with that client and making a meaningful conversation, having a meaningful connection goes up. It triples. So that's a very, very useful factor and something that's very different about what you guys are doing.
And what is your follow-up like? So let's say you either make the phone call or you drop the packet off. What are your next step?
Well, we're still using the traditional media. I'm going to send an email in the first 2 weeks. They're going to get a weekly email from me, a weekly phone call. I'll drop a thank you card in the mail, the handwritten thank you card that says, we appreciate the opportunity and here's what we offer. And then if we're not getting much response in those first few weeks, then we're dropping it back to a monthly contact, a monthly touch. And at that point, we do probably a yearly, an annual kind of purging of our database. So if we see somebody that's been in there for now 2 or 3 years and we're just not getting any contact, we do eventually purge them from the database. But that initial follow-up, while that person is thinking about the transaction, is key. And that phone number again is key. The conversion rate on leads with a phone number versus leads on an email is, I don't have actual numbers, but I just know that it's got to be 5 to 1 better. I think I honestly only remember converting a couple of my email leads versus having a phone number. So that's why we think going and actually doing the drop off on their doorstep is going to help, hopefully, with those internet leads.
Yeah, I think so. It's bringing that personal touch back to the technology. And I know you've closed a transaction with a set schedule lead. So can you tell us a little bit about that process? Were they super receptive to you right off the bat, or did it take time to earn their trust?
Yeah, good. Gerald was actually his name. He was very receptive. He did compare us. He was interviewing three different brokerages to list their home, and he told us again and again that he liked our integrity. He liked the answers that we were giving him. I know a couple of the other agents, their pricing was off. He did want to reach on his price a little bit. We really felt that it was a unique home and that it was a beautiful home, and that it had the ability to make that. He was coming on the market in an ideal time. He was coming on the market in the spring, which is ideal. So we again, I guess we gave him the answers that he wanted. I just think it's us doing good work, being honest, telling him exactly what we can do, and going that extra mile for our clients. But there was something he saw in us that he liked. Funny story was the wreath. When we brought the wreath to his door this year, he actually said, "Hey, let's go out and have lunch. You guys got time for lunch?" We all ended up going out to lunch together and having another good conversation. So I don't know if I answered your question. I think I went around a little bit there.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. No, I love to hear that. That's what I was curious about that experience, because I think too, when you're starting to get into lead generation, you're looking for that light at the end of the tunnel. So I just kind of wanted to give people that sort of example of how that there is success to be had in that program and how you find that. Yeah,
there definitely is. I would agree. And I remember when thinking back to the time when I was a new agent, and it gets a little bit overwhelming. It's a little daunting because it seems you're spending hours and hours and hours and just with little or no result at all. And getting that negative that thinking off your back and thinking about, again, what I can do for my clients. And then when you get that first client, you pour yourself into them and you get that first close and then you get the referral, and then another one comes, and it just, you gotta push through the negative thinking and think about what you're doing as a service, and that you're gonna get there. And I think the majority of the agents, at least that I know, they really do like to serve. They've got that servant heart and that servant mentality. If they don't, they're not going to last very long. So, I mean, even if you're becoming a mega agent running an office and you've got 100 agents under you, you're still serving them. It has to come from that standpoint, from that point of view.
You come to think of yourself as sort of this island, but it is so collaborative in a lot of ways that every transaction you have 15 to 20 people that are going to touch it. So you have to like people.
Yeah, and we're helping everybody. You're helping everybody to succeed. The collaborative effort, right? If you're successful, I'm going to be successful, and on down the line.
And so I know you kind of touched on that about being able to stay above the rejections, or that feeling that you're kind of screaming into a void. But what are some of the other tips or things that you would say to realtors who are just getting into internet lead generation? So you might have some experience working in real estate, know about the transactions, but I think when you first get into real estate, typically your book of business is going to consist mostly of your sphere of influence or referrals, people who know you,
right,
or like you said, people who love you, versus when you're working internet leads, they don't really know you from Adam. So what are some things that you would say to tell people to keep in mind as they are getting into internet lead generation?
Well, I think back to what we touched on earlier, coming from a place of collaboration, a place of giving, showing that you have something to give to that in that transaction. I think there's probably a myriad of ways to do that, but for us, we're willing to share the information about the market with them right off the bat. Here's what's going on in your market, at your price point. This is where we think you're at for your price point. So showing that you're different, that you have the knowledge, and that you have the information to help them. In Idaho, we have a unique situation in that the sales price of a home is confidential. So there is really literally no way to know what the sale price of a home was, except to go through a realtor, because all that is held in our MLS database. When clients use I don't know if I can say that, if the client uses a Zillow's estimate or any of the estimates out there, the data there is really hypothetical because they don't know what those homes sold for. So we have that information, and we can share that information. I think that's unique to Idaho and probably a few other states as well. But yeah, I guess the key is show the client what you can do. Don't hold back. You got to show them what you've got and why you're different, why you can help them, how you can help them. A canned response of we'll sell your home for the best price in the lowest amount of time. That's not gonna ring true with people. You've got to show them what you can do.
Well, I think that's a great note to end it on. But I want to say thank you again, Scott, so much for making yourself available. I know it's a busy time of the year, but I do appreciate you joining us today and sharing some of your knowledge and experience in real estate.
Yeah, you're welcome. Welcome. Again, glad to be here. It was a pleasure. It really was.
Thank you.